Welcome to the Olive Grove podcast. We're the place where we dig into powerful texts, aiming to really help you get well-informed without feeling overwhelmed. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really compelling story from the book of Nehemiah, specifically chapter 4. It's this incredible account of rebuilding Jerusalem's walls against, well, some pretty fierce opposition.
It really is. And what's fascinating, I think, is how this ancient story gives us such a timeless pattern for facing challenges. Combines faith and very practical action. We'll look at the tactics used to discourage people, the sheer power of prayer, and just how important resilience is when you're doing difficult, maybe God-given work.
Yeah, our mission today is to unpack the strategies Nehemiah and his people used, how they overcame threats from outside, but also that doubt from within, and what lessons, what profound lessons can we pull from that for our own lives, whether you're tackling a big project or just dealing with everyday stuff. So let's get into it.
Okay, so the story kicks off with immediate, pretty visceral opposition. The source mentioned Sanballat and Tobiah right at the start. They were just furious, weren't they, that the rebuilding was even happening. This wasn't just mild disagreement.
Not at all. It was outrage. And their first move, ridicule. Psychological warfare, really.
Yeah.
Sanballat, he's this governor. He stands up and basically scoffs at them. Things like, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore things? Will they sacrifice? Will they finish up in a day? Can they bring stones back to life from heaps of rubbish and burnt ones at that? Just dripping with contempt.
Right, trying to make them feel small and competent. And then Tobiah jumps in with that really cutting image, suggesting that even a fox, if it climbed on their wall, would knock it down. Exactly. It's designed to humiliate. To say, your work is pathetic, it's worthless.
You can really feel the weight of that kind of mockery, can't you? It's aimed right at their confidence.
Absolutely. And it makes you ask, why start with mockery? Why that tactic? Well, the source suggests it was deliberate. To make the people doubt themselves. Doubt the task, maybe even doubt, if God was really in it. It's a classic move, isn't it? Undermine their belief in themselves and the mission. If you can do that, sometimes the work just stops on its own.
So faced with this wave of scorn, what does Nehemiah do? He doesn't just shrug it off.
Right.
The source points to Nehemiah 4, verses 4 and 5.
Precisely. He turns straight to God.
Yeah.
He prays. He asks God to deal with the injustice, essentially. But here's the crucial part, and the source really highlights this. Nehemiah didn't just pray and then sit back. It emphasizes that, after prayer, Nehemiah did not just sit around waiting for a miracle. God could have intervened miraculously, sure, but instead, he had given the people work to do. So Nehemiah combined prayer with action immediately.
That's such a powerful point. It's not either pray or work, it's pray and work. And it worked, didn't it? The people kept building. The source says the wall was soon joined together and completed to half its height all the way around. Why? Because the people worked with a will.
Exactly. That phrase, worked with a will, is key. Prayer fueled their determination, it seems. It's this dynamic partnership. But that very success, that visible progress, it just ramps up the opposition. As the gaps in the wall started closing, Sanballat and Tobiah, they get reinforcements, Arabs, Ammonites, Ashdodites. The text says they became very angry when they heard the repairs were actually succeeding.
Right. It's almost like progress itself attracts more resistance sometimes.
It often does, especially perhaps when it's significant work, maybe work with a deeper purpose.
And this time it wasn't just words, was it? They escalated.
Oh, yeah. They plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and create confusion.
Their goal was simple. Stop the work. By force, if necessary. Maybe even kill the builders in a surprise attack. This is serious now.
Definitely. So the critical question becomes, how did the builders react to this physical threat? Well, the source tells us there was a shift. Discouragement started setting in. We hear the people of Judah saying things like, the strength of the burden bearers is failing, and there is too much rubble. By ourselves, we will not be able to rebuild the wall. The scale of the task, the constant threat, it was wearing them down.
They started believing the enemy's narrative, didn't they? That it was impossible. Doubt started creeping in.
Exactly. And even worse, the source points out something really insidious. Some of the Judeans who lived near these enemies, they apparently listened to their words and began to doubt God.
Wow.
And then they started spreading that doubt among their own people, telling them, they will come up against us from every place where you turn. 10 times they repeated this.
So opposition isn't just external. It can come from within, from people close to you who've lost heart. That can be even harder to deal with.
It really can. Internal discord can be just as damaging as an outside attack.
Okay, before we see how Nehemiah handles this really complex crisis, the threats, the doubt, I actually want to pause for a moment. This deep dive is brought to you by Enduring Freedom Ministries, EFM. And if this whole theme of perseverance, of God working through challenges, if that resonates with you, I really encourage you to check out their book. It's called Misfits for Jesus, True Accounts of People Experiencing Jesus. You can find it on Amazon. It's just full of these incredible, miraculous stories showing God's hand through EFM's work. Really inspiring stuff.
Yeah, EFM is doing some really impactful work. Their whole mission is about spreading hope and, crucially, practical aid. It kind of embodies that spirit of diligent effort we're seeing in Nehemiah. And one specific thing we wanted to highlight, something you can support right now, is their goal to establish a food pantry in Jerusalem, Israel.
Right there in the city we're talking about.
Exactly. It's a vital project to provide real, tangible care for people in need.
That's right. And honestly, every little bit helps make a difference. Imagine being part of providing food support to families right there in Jerusalem. So if this ministry, or maybe the idea of helping folks in Jerusalem specifically, speaks to you, please do consider donating to Enduring Freedom Ministries. You can find out how to support them, including that Jerusalem Food Pantry project, on their website. It's a way to be part of God's work in the world today, much like, building that wall. Okay, so back to Nehemiah. He's got enemies plotting violence. His own people are getting discouraged, spreading doubt. What does he do? He doesn't panic.
No, he sticks to his pattern, that proven pattern. Prayer and action. He prayed, definitely. But the text says they also set a guard as a protection against them day and night.
Practical steps. Faith doesn't mean you don't lock your doors, right?
Exactly. And his leadership here is just brilliant strategically. How he stationed the guards, he put them behind the lowest parts of the wall at the exposed places, and crucially, I stationed the people by their clans with their swords, their spears, and their bows.
By families, by clans. Why was that so smart?
Well, think about it. By stationing them with their families, he tapped into the most powerful motivation there is, protecting your own. People will fight harder, endure more, when their brothers, sons, daughters, wives are right there. It wasn't just defending a wall. It was defending home.
That's incredibly insightful. And he didn't just position them, he encouraged them too, didn't he? He rallied them, saying, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, that's Adonai, emphasizing God's power, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes.
What a speech. It refocused them completely. Remember who is on your side, the great and awesome Lord. And remember what you're fighting for, everything that matters.
Powerful stuff. Shifting their focus from fear to faith and family.
And it worked. The strategy paid off. The enemies found out their plot was known. And the text says God had frustrated their plan.
So Nehemiah's combination of prayer, strategy, and encouragement, it thwarted the attack.
It did. It's presented as a clear example of God protecting his people when they act in faith and diligence. You can just imagine the enemy's frustration. Their ambush was foiled.
So the people, they must have been emboldened by this, right? They continued the work, but how?
With his incredible level of readiness. The source paints such a vivid picture. Half of my servants worked on construction, and half held the spears, shields, bows, and coats of mail.
Wow. Half building, half guarding.
And then that really famous image. Those who carried burdens were loaded in such a way that each labored on the work with one hand and held his weapon with the other.
One hand working, one hand armed. That image has stuck around for centuries, hasn't it? It's just, wow.
It really is. And the source suggests, it's kind of a picture for us even today, maybe especially for Christians. It says, we are to work, but also to be prepared. Prepared to defend the faith, maybe prepared to share the good news, even as we do our daily tasks.
Constantly ready, day and night.
Exactly. The builders worked as long as there was light each day, basically from dawn till the stars came out. And they were guards at night, too.
It wasn't a 9-to-5 thing.
Not at all. It was a full-on 247 commitment, reflecting how important Nehemiah, and presumably the people, believed this work was. Vigilance and relentless effort, side by side.
And the source makes it clear this wasn't just for Nehemiah, right, or the leaders.
No, it implies this is for everyone involved in the mission. The text says it is the responsibility of all Christians to answer the call whenever it comes, connecting it forward. It suggests a kind of constant readiness is part of that commitment.
What an amazing story, this deep dive into Nehemiah 4. It's just packed. Facing ridicule, fighting off plots, the power of prayer with action.
Yeah, and if you pull back to the bigger picture, it really underscores that doing significant work, stuff that matters, often brings opposition. External stuff, yeah, but also that internal doubt. But it also shows so clearly that things like preparedness, working together, strong leadership, and just keeping your eye on the goal, that can overcome huge challenges.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? If those people back then could rebuild a city wall with, one hand working and the other holding a spear, what challenges could you take on in your life, your work, your community, if you came at it with that same mix of prayer, action, and just sheer determination?
That's a great question to leave with. What task? What project? Maybe what calling is sitting in front of you right now? What needs both your earnest prayer and your diligent, maybe one hand working, one hand ready kind of effort? Especially when those foxes of doubt or opposition are trying to knock it down.
Hmm.
How can Nehemiah's approach the leadership, the community focus, the reliance on God, maybe inform your next step?
We really hope this deep dive has given you some fresh perspective, maybe some encouragement for whatever walls you're building or defending right now. And hey, if you enjoyed this conversation and want more insights like this, remember to subscribe to the Olive Grove podcast right here on YouTube. We'd love to have you join us again soon.